Triplet girls discover a sad princess. Single dad's heartwarming response reveals an amazing truth. In the heart of Maplewood, on a day so bright that even the clouds seem to smile, three spirited triplet girls, Lily, Max, and Sarah, embarked on their latest adventure. As they pedaled down leafy streets, laughter spilled like sunlight around them. They raced each other, their giggles echoing against the backdrop of chirping birds and rustling leaves. Little did they know, fate had a twist waiting right around the corner. They stumbled upon a towering mansion, its overgrown vines creeping like fingers over cracked walls. "What do you think is inside?" Max asked, her eyes wide with curiosity. The others shared a look that screamed, "Let's find out!" The girls leaned their bikes against the gate and stepped into the shadowy mystery that the ancient house offered. Inside, dust danced in the slanted beams of sunlight, creating a mystical aura. They navigated through rooms filled with old furniture draped in dusty sheets, but it was the back chamber that took their breath away. In that secret space, portraits of forgotten ancestors lined the walls, their eyes seeming to follow the girls, but it was the sight in the center of the room that made their hearts flutter. There, weeping silently, was a young woman clad in tattered royal garments. Her once golden crown lay shattered at her feet. "I'm the sad princess," she sobbed. Her voice was like a ghost whispering secrets from a broken past. "I was cast aside when my family lost everything." The weight of her sorrow hung thick in the air. The girls shared a collective gasp, feeling an aching tenderness for her plight. It instantly sparked something inside them. They couldn't just leave her there, lost to time. As they rushed back home, their father Mark, an artist with paint-splattered jeans and a heart big enough for all three of them, sensed something monumental had shifted in his daughters. "Dad," Lily exclaimed, "we met someone today who needs our help." They explained the princess's story, their eyes wide with determination. Mark felt the flicker of inspiration and realized they could create something beautiful, an event to help the princess regain her lost dignity. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Though, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The trio created banners boasting messages of kindness, while Mark rushed to beautify the mansion with vibrant murals. But just as the enthusiasm bubbled, doubts festered in the community. "Why help her?" some murmured. "She was a princess, wasn't she?" Those words cut like a knife, threatening to drown their dreams in a sea of prejudice. But hope surged when the day of the event arrived. The mansion glimmered with life, neighbors gathering, laughter echoing where once silence thrived. As the sad princess revealed her heart, she showed that true worth isn't in the crown, but in kindness and connection. The room filled with emotion, laughter mingling with tears, igniting the spark of community. Yet just as they reached their peak of understanding, a sudden storm brewed outside, rattling windows and hearts. Would this twist tear apart the fragile bonds they had just begun to forge? Lily, Max, and Sarah, united in purpose, braced themselves for the unexpected challenge ahead, their determination glowing with the promise of resilience and love. Would they manage to knit their community back together, or would the storm prove too mighty? Their quest was just beginning, leaving everyone breathless with anticipation for what would come next. The storm surged, rain splattering against the grand windows of the mansion like an angry percussion. As thunder cracked and echoed, the laughter wavered, uncertainty creeping in as swiftly as the rain itself. The gathering of neighbors shifted uneasily, and the vibrant colors of the decorations seemed to pale under the relentless gray sky. "Is this a sign?" Max questioned, clutching her sister's hand tightly. All around them, whispers of doubt curled through the crowd. What if this was a mistake? What if we shouldn't have come here? But then the sad princess lifted her tear-streaked face. There was raw courage in her eyes, a flicker of hope that cut through the darkness. "You have given me a voice," she said, her voice steady despite the storm's fury. "Let's not allow the storm to drown our dreams." Together, we can face this. With those simple yet powerful words, she reignited the fire in the Triplet girls' hearts. They nodded resolutely, determined not to let the storm win. "Everyone, we can still do this," Lily called out, her voice ringing with enthusiasm. "Our stories can shelter us from this rain." Some neighbors exchanged skeptical glances, but others began to cheer. Mark stepped forward, his artist spirit awakened. "We might not be able to control the storm outside, but we can create our own sunshine in here." He grabbed some nearby umbrellas, a testament to their resilience, offering them to those who would join in. The bonds began to mend. One by one, neighbors joined the trio, sharing their own stories of hardship and loss. They laughed, they cried. Each tale echoed the struggles of life, drawing them closer together. The rain, instead of being a barrier, forged an unexpected strength among them like iron sharpening iron. The sad princess shared her story, illuminating not just her own loss, but the universal truths buried in every heart. "I may have lost my crown, but in sharing our lives, we can wear our scars with pride," she offered, her spirit rising with every moment. The impact of her journey resonated with the community, and emotions were palpable. Tears mingled with laughter. "Let's turn this storm into a celebration," Max shouted suddenly, her eyes brightening with a new idea. She dashed to the hastily decorated table, distinguishing it from the ones weighed down with doubt. "We can create a beautiful feast right here. Who has food to share?" The question broke through the crowd's tension. Smiles returned as people began to rummage through bags and dishes, finding joy in the spontaneity of their new gathering. Moments after, the initial hesitation melted away into a festival atmosphere. Food lined the table, aromas weaving through the air as if the storm only encouraged their movement. Mark beamed with pride at his daughters. Just as the community acted as one, the princess's spirit radiated, invigorating everyone. With the laughter rising like sunbeams peeking through clouds, it felt as if the storm outside was just an echo, far away now. But just then, as they took a moment to bask in their unity, the wind howled ferociously outside and a fierce bolt of lightning struck nearby. The ground shook beneath them, knocking over a nearby vase filled with flowers. All eyes turned tense, facing the uncertainty of what might come next. Had they truly weathered the storm, or was this just the beginning of something bigger? As the darkness swirled outside, the trio huddled with their father, hearts pounding with both fear and exhilaration. Could the next challenges tear them apart, or would it forge a bond stronger than before? The answer lingered just out of reach, pushing them toward the unknown. The atmosphere inside the mansion buzzed with renewed energy, but the storm outside raged with even greater fury. The crack of thunder overpowered the laughter momentarily, sending a ripple of apprehension through the crowd. The sad princess stood tall, silhouetted against the growing darkness, and for a fleeting moment she appeared almost ethereal. "Gather round, let's share more stories," she urged, her voice breaking through the thunder's roar. Mark's heart swelled with admiration as he watched her rally everyone. Max and Lily exchanged determined glances, their spirits barely dampened by the chaos outside. The neighbors responded, moving closer, forming small circles around the table. As dishes were passed and shared, tales of hope entwined with tales of sadness, creating something uniquely beautiful, a tapestry of lives intersecting. Laughter gradually rose again, intertwining with the stubborn percussion of rain pounding against the windows. One neighbor, Mrs. Cummings, shared a story about the day she overcame her fear of public speaking. "It's like standing in a storm, but choosing to dance anyway," she said, her hands animated. A ripple of laughter and shared understanding danced through the crowd. Then the sweet sound of a child's giggle pierced the air. It was young Henry, the smallest neighbor, his bright smile a stark contrast to the gloom outside. "My mum says storms are just the clouds playing hide and seek." His innocent declaration made everyone chuckle, but the laughter masked an underlying tension. Yet, the wind suddenly howled louder, momentarily silencing the room. Someone gasped as a flash of lightning lit up the windows, the light briefly revealing the fear in everyone's eyes. The storm felt alive, almost as if it were responding to their collective courage. Is anyone else scared? Lily whispered to her sisters as she tightened her grip on Max's hand. I am. But I think we can beat it, Max replied fiercely, determination flashing in her eyes. Together, the sad princess chimed in softly, her steady gaze reassuring them. Just as the tension began to ease, the lights flickered and dimmed. A murmur stirred, unease creeping back in. But the sad princess walked forward, a beacon of light amidst the shadows. This storm strengthens us. It reminds us that we should never be ashamed of our struggles. Tonight, let's find joy even in the darkness. Her words ignited something inside the crowd, inching them toward unity once more. Neighbors leaned in, faces illuminated by the occasional flash of lightning, eyes bright with determination. They began to take their fear and weave it into stories of energy and resilience, becoming clearer with every shared laugh, every touch of a hand. As the wind screamed its anthem outside, Mark's heart raced. This gathering, this whirlwind of human connection, felt like magic. But then, another crash echoed through the night, this time accompanied by the sound of glass shattering somewhere upstairs. A collective gasp rose from the crowd, panic hanging heavy in the air. What was that? Someone asked, their voice trembling. Mark stood abruptly, trying to assess the situation. I'll check it out, he said, trying to infuse his words with confidence, even as his own heart thudded fearfully in his chest. Wait, Max called, her voice laced with worry. What if it's dangerous? Stay here, I'll be right back, Mark assured, though he felt uncertainty gnawing at him. As he stepped away from the warmth of the gathering, the distance felt like plunging into the cold storm outside. What if the storm wasn't finished with them yet? Dubious thoughts echoed in his mind as he climbed the staircase, unaware that the shadows were shifting upstairs. Could the gathering they had just forged withstand this new layer of chaos? Mark's footsteps echoed in the hollow silence as he climbed the staircase, the air thick with trepidation. The tremors of the storm outside rippled through the walls, and each clap of thunder felt like a premonition, urging him to turn back. But curiosity drove him forward. At the top of the stairs, the hallway stretched dark and foreboding. Shadows clung to the corners, curling like silent watchers. Mark hesitated, searching for the source of the crash. Hello? He called out, his voice trembling against the wind's wail. No answer, just the steady patter of rain and the occasional crack of thunder. He could feel his heart racing, beating in rhythm with an anxiety that threatened to swallow him whole. The first door he approached stood ajar. He slowly pushed it open, the hinges creaking like whispers in the night. Inside, moonlight slanted through the window, casting ghostly shapes across the floor. As he stepped in, he noticed shards of glass sparkling like stars on the ground. Anyone here? He asked, trying to keep panic at bay. Mark's eyes scanned the room. Empty. Just an overturned chair and the remnants of a shattered picture frame. Then he remembered the sad princess. She had said to embrace the darkness to find joy. Why did fear feel so heavy now? Taking a deep breath, he stepped forward, carefully navigating the glass. The lightning flashed again, illuminating the walls lined with portraits of past families, smiling faces frozen in time. Suddenly, a faint rustle caught his attention, a sound from the next room. He moved towards it, each step feeling like a leap into the unknown. What if it was danger waiting? But what if it was someone who needed him? He opened the door slowly, and a chill ran down his spine. The room was dark, the curtains drawn tight. A figure huddled in the corner, trembling slightly. "Hello?" Mark called, trying to keep a quiver out of his voice. "I'm here to help." The figure lifted its head, revealing a pair of wide, fearful eyes. It was a young girl, older than Henry, but still so small, wrapped in a blanket that looked as though it had been clutched tightly for comfort. I'm sorry," she stammered. "I didn't mean to scare anyone, I just didn't want to be alone." Mark's heart softened. "You don't have to be alone. The storm is loud, but we're all downstairs together. You're safe here." The girl's eyes shimmered with unshed tears, and he could see the flicker of hope intertwining with fear. "I'm Clara," she whispered. "I saw the glass break. I thought—" Her voice trailed off, uncertainty hanging in the air like the storm outside. Mark knelt before her, his heart heavy with the weight of her fear. "I know it's scary, but storms pass and so do our fears. Let's go back to the others. They'll be glad to see you." Clara hesitated, but then nodded slowly. Mark extended his hand, and after a moment's hesitation, she took it. The warmth of her grip grounded him, and together they stepped back into the hallway. As they moved toward the staircase, the thunder rolled once more, this time sounding less like a warning and more like a distant drummer, urging them onward. They descended together, Mark's heart swelling with hope. He could feel the energy of the gathering below, their unity a testament to overcoming. But just as they reached the bottom of the steps, another crash echoed from somewhere deeper within the house, louder than the storm itself. "What was that?" Clara gasped, pulling closer to him. Mark exchanged a glance with Clara, a spark of determination igniting within him. "I don't know, but we're not going to let fear win tonight." Together, they stepped into the expansive room, uncertainty swirling in the air around them. Would they find support, or would the chaos unravel everything they had built? The storm's final howl seemed to beckon, and Mark paved the way into the unknown, feeling the weight of everyone's eyes upon them, a mixture of hope and dread. What awaited them as the storm raged on? As they crossed the threshold into the large room, the atmosphere shifted. The flickering candlelight cast elongated shadows on the walls, and the faces of the small group huddled inside turned towards them, a mixture of surprise and relief washing over their features. "Mark! Clara!" One of the adults, Jenna, rushed forward, her eyes widening in concern. "Are you both okay? We heard a terrible noise." Clara, still clutching Mark's hand, felt comfort in their presence. "I found Clara up there," Mark said, trying to keep his voice steady. She was scared by the storm. Jenna knelt down, reaching out to Clara with a soothing smile. "You did great coming back, sweetheart. You're safe now." Clara nodded, a shy smile breaking through her fear as Jenna pulled her into a gentle embrace. But just as the warmth of the moment began to eclipse the shadows of doubt, another loud crash resonated from somewhere deep within the house. The sound rattled the windows, and everyone in the room flinched. "What was that?" someone muttered, and fear gripped the air like an iron fist. Mark could see the anxiety pooling in the eyes around him. "It came from the basement," whispered a teenager named Tyler, his voice barely audible over the sounds of the raging storm. I think we should check it out." Mark's heart raced. He looked at Clara, who was shifting nervously. "You don't have to come." "I want to," she interrupted, her determination surprising them both. "I'm not scared." Jenna exchanged a glance with Mark, understanding flaring in her eyes. "If you feel safe and want to help, then we should stick together. There's strength in numbers." With that, Mark took the lead, the group following him through the entryway, away from the flickering light of the room. As they approached the basement door, the air grew heavier, saturated with an unshakable tension. He hesitated, hand resting on the doorknob, heart pounding like a drum. "On three, then," Mark said, rallying everyone. 1, 2, 3. He yanked the door open, revealing a set of steep stairs leading down into darkness. The faint smell of damp wood filled the air, and a rush of cold, musty air wafted up to greet them. A low rumble echoed from below, almost drowned out by the storm's fury outside. Clara squeezed his hand tightly, but her eyes glimmered with courage. "We can do this." "Yeah," Mark whispered, more to himself than her. "Together." They descended slowly, the stairs creaking under their weight. Each step resonated like a heartbeat in the silence. As they reached the bottom, a flickering light caught Mark's attention. It came from a small corner where an old lantern sat perched on a wooden crate. "Is someone down here?" Clara's voice trembled, but there was strength in it too. Mark felt the thrill of hope surge, but dread lingered at the edges. "Let's check it out," Jenna said, stepping forward while casting a quick glance at Tyler. They moved closer to the light, and what they found took their breath away. Scattered across the floor were remnants of old toys, cobwebbed furniture, and something much more peculiar, a mirror covered in dust, its surface shimmering faintly as if trying to reveal a hidden truth. "What is this place?" Tyler wondered aloud, stepping closer. But before anyone could respond, The lantern flickered wildly, and a gust of wind swept through the basement, blowing out the flickering light entirely. Darkness engulfed them, and the silence became suffocating. "Who's there?" Mark called out, voice steady despite the fear knotting in his stomach. In that moment of shrouded uncertainty, an eerie figure appeared at the edge of the darkness. A haunting form drifted into the faint light, and the group stood frozen, hearts racing in unison. Mark instinctively stepped forward, breath caught in his throat. "Wait, is she—" The figure, a girl with ethereal features, emerged slowly, eyes mirroring the storm's turmoil. Her voice was nothing but a whisper. "You found me." A chilling realization washed over Mark. Who stood before them might be the sad princess herself. What did this mean for them, and what truth would she reveal about the storm they faced within and beneath the surface? The air grew heavier, a silence stretching uncomfortably as the figure drew closer, her translucent features illuminated by the last glimmer of the lantern that flickered back to life. Mark's heart pounded in his chest as he stepped forward, fully confronting the ethereal presence before him. The sad princess's pale face bore a sadness that seemed to resonate with the raging storm outside. Who are you?" Clara whispered, her small voice barely cutting through the tension. "I am Ilara," the figure replied, her gaze fixed directly on Mark. "And you've come to find me." Mark felt a sudden pull, as if the weight of her sorrow wrapped around him, urging him to understand. "What do you mean? We were just—" Ilara raised a slender finger to her lips, shushing him gently. "Time flows differently in this place. You must listen. I am trapped in this world, condemned to stay, until someone learns my secret." The room around them felt charged, as if the walls were inching closer, drawn by the energy of her words. Jenna reached for Clara, pulling her a little closer, protective yet intrigued by the spectral girl. "What secret?" Tyler asked, his bravado wavering. "What do we need to do?" "I need the heart of the storm," Ilara replied, her voice trembling as if still tethered to the elements outside. "Only then can I be freed." Mark exchanged glances with his friends, a sense of urgency and fear swirling amongst them. "But how do we do that?" Ilara's expression softened, her sad eyes shimmering. "You must confront your own fears, what lies hidden in the darkest parts of your hearts. Only then can the storm be calmed." As she spoke, heavy drops of rain lashed against the basement windows, echoing the turmoil within. Clara's grip tightened around Mark's hand, and he felt himself teetering on the edge of understanding. What did the sad princess know that they didn't? What darkness lurked inside each of them? "We're not scared of you," Tyler echoed, attempting to muster courage. "We'll help you." Ilara's smile was faint but sincere. "You think it's me you should fear. The real darkness is the storm within. Learn from it, face it, and perhaps I can be released." Suddenly, the lantern sputtered again, casting frantic shadows as the wind howled outside. An ominous rumble shivered through the foundation. Mark, suddenly aware, turned to see Clara, pale and trembling. Her eyes, once bright with determination, were clouded with fear once more. It's okay, Clara," he whispered, though doubt dripped into his own heart. "We can do this together." But the fear was palpable. Tyler's bravado was fading fast, and Jenna's expression was tight with worry. All of them harbored fears that loomed large in the dark recesses of their minds. "What if we can't?" Clara's voice quivered. "What if facing it makes it worse?" Ilara stepped closer, her form flickering like the flame of the lantern. "Fear is often greater than the reality of what you face. You must find strength in vulnerability, in your shared bonds. Go back to where the storm bites the hardest. Face your truths." What if the key to saving Ilara lay in their own secrets, hidden fears entwined with their lives? As they looked into one another's eyes, a flicker of resolve ignited within Mark. They weren't just here to face the storm outside, but the tumult inside. "Together," he repeated, louder this time. "Let's face it." But as they turned toward the stairs, a deafening crash reverberated through the house, shaking the very foundation beneath them. The shadows closed in, and Mark felt a fear like he'd never known claw at his heart. The storm outside raged on, but now inside they faced something even more turbulent. Their own haunted reflections shimmered in the dust-covered mirror. What would they find if they dared to look deeper? With the echoes of thunder fading but the storm still looming, they held their breath as they took the first step back into the fray. What awaited them above, within their shared fears? Mark's heart rattled as they ascended the narrow staircase, the tempest outside casting erratic shadows that bounced off the walls. Each turn of the stairs felt like entering a new realm, where every creak echoed ominously, warning them about the fears lurking in the corners of their minds. What if we can't do this? Clara's voice trembled again, a whisper lost in the gusts of wind swirling through the cracks. Remember what she said, Mark replied encouragingly. Look at our fears as a part of us. We can figure it out together. Jenna took a deep breath, her hands fidgeting nervously at her sides. We don't have to share everything, do we? Her eyes darted, haunted by thoughts. Some things are buried for a reason. Tyler stepped sideways to face her, searching for the bravery he'd earlier tried to exude. But avoiding them won't make them go away. We need to break through. He was trying to sound strong, yet even he could feel uncertainty shadowing his voice. With a final push, they emerged into the living room. The storm outside had intensified, pounding against the house like a battle cry. Rain streaked the windows, distorting their view of the outside world. It felt like they had stepped into a different dimension, one where their challenges awaited. Look, Mark said, approaching the window. He could barely make out the trees swaying violently in the storm. The heart of the storm is out there, but it's also in here. He pressed his hand against his chest, feeling the weight of everything he had buried deep inside. Do you think it's like a puzzle? Clara suggested nervously, her face lighting up for a moment. Like if we figure out our fears, we can figure out how to help Ilara. Exactly, Mark said, his voice gaining strength. We need to start with what scares us most. He stood up straighter, feeling the winds of courage blow through him. Suddenly a rumble of thunder rolled through the air, vibrating the very foundation beneath them. Clara jumped back, her eyes wide with panic. No, I can't do this. Clara, you can. Jenna reached for her, grabbing her shoulders firmly. We're in this together. We won't let each other fall. Mark locked eyes with Tyler, who nodded slightly, though he still seemed restless, as if grappling with his thoughts. Let's take turns, Mark suggested. Each of us shares something. We have to be honest, no matter how scary it is. They gathered in a circle, creating a small, safe space amongst the chaos. Clara was the first to draw breath. Okay, I'll go. Her voice quivered, and her cheeks flushed. I'm afraid of disappointing everyone. I always feel like I'm not good enough. She looked down, her vulnerability exposing wounds that felt fresh. It's okay, Jenna whispered, wrapping her arms around her. We all feel that way sometimes. Tyler stepped closer, eyes now focused on Clara. I think we all fear disappointing each other. We just have to remember supporting each other is what matters. We have to believe we're good enough because we're here for each other. The words hung in the air, causing a small flicker of light in the heaviness surrounding them. So I guess it's my turn, Tyler said hesitantly, glancing around at his friends. I'm scared of being alone, of not fitting in. I try to act tough, but it's really hard sometimes. Mark felt a weight lift from his chest as he realized they were all in this together. They were all fighting their own storms, yet they were finding strength in each other. With a deep breath, it was Jenna's turn. I'm terrified of losing the people I love. It just feels like they're always slipping away. In the flickering candlelight, their silence grew thick with understanding. Each confession carved away at the darkness they harbored inside. As they shared their truths, the storm outside lingered, but somehow it felt less immovable. They were lifting the veil that shrouded their hearts. Then a particularly loud crash rattled the room, and a silhouette appeared at the door, outlined against the ferocious light of the storm. Who's there? Mark shouted, instinctively stepping forward, heart racing again. As the figure stepped fully into the light, he felt the chill of fear return. It was another presence, and they all froze, uncertainty flooding back. What had they awakened? With the winds howling and the shadows closing in, they stood together, knowing their true test was about to begin. Would they embrace this new challenge, or would it shatter the trust they had just begun to forge? The figure in the doorway took a step forward, shaking off droplets of rain like an animal emerging from a storm. Mark squinted, trying to make sense of the shadowy silhouette. His heart was pounding, a drum of panic and anticipation. Was this the challenge they'd feared? "Who are you?" Clara's voice was barely a whisper, her hands trembling at her sides. "Is that you, Elara?" Tyler asked, hope mingling with doubt. The storm seemed to hold its breath, waiting for an answer. The figure took another cautious step into the light of the flickering candles. It was a girl, maybe a little older than them, with long hair plastered against her face and eyes that shimmered like two lost stars. She looked both frightened and familiar, like a memory from a dream. "There's no time to explain," she said, urgency rippling in her voice. "You need to come with me. It's about the others and the storm." Jenna shot a glance at her friends. What does she mean by the others? She took a step back, wrapping her arms around herself defensively. "The ones lost inside their fears," Elara pressed on, stepping closer, but still maintaining a veil of caution. "If you really want to help them, you have to face yours first. The only way out is through." Mark felt a surge of confusion. Their fears. Was it possible they were standing at the edge of something much larger than just their individual worries? He thought back to the rest of their confessions, the vulnerability that had begun to weave them together. "Okay," he said, giving a resolute nod, though doubt still curled itself around his heart. "We'll follow you, but we won't go blindly. We need to understand what's happening first." Elara looked at him, her expression softening slightly. "You have to trust me. You have to believe you can overcome the storm inside. It's only in facing it together that you'll find freedom." The thunder roared outside again, shaking the windows. Clara stepped closer to Mark, her fingers barely touching his arm. "And if we can't, what will happen?" Elara's gaze darkened briefly, as if recalling something painful. "Things might get worse before they get better, but you need to confront what you fear most. Only then can you save the others and yourselves." A chill washed over the room. Mark felt the weight of her words, brewing both fear and determination inside him. "Let's do this," Tyler said, his voice firmer now. "We've got this. Together." The four friends exchanged glances, a silent agreement floating in the air between them. With renewed focus, they turned back to Elara, ready to embark on whatever journey lay ahead. "Lead the way," Jenna said, her voice steadying with confidence that surprised even her. Taking a long, deep breath, Elara stepped backward into the icy storm beyond, beckoning them to follow. The world outside howled with rage, yet there was an electric sense of opportunity in the air. As they moved forward, the darkness seemed to deepen, shadows clawing at their resolve. But together, they formed a barrier against the encroaching void. Just as they reached the doorway, a flash illuminated the room, and Mark felt an unsettling premonition wash over him, an ominous sense that the journey would demand more than they ever expected. "Will we be strong enough?" Clara whispered just before stepping outside. "No more doubts," Mark replied, squeezing her hand. "We face it all together, no matter what comes next." With that conviction warming their hearts, they plunged into the storm, the unimaginable ahead woven through equal parts fear and hope. As raindrops pummeled them, each step pushed them deeper into unknown territory. But what awaited on the other side beyond their fears? What treasures, what truths lay hidden in the heart of the storm? The rain lashed the ground like 1,000 tiny fists, and the wind howled, a wild creature unchained. Elara led the way, her silhouette ghostly against the chaos. Mark, Clara, Jenna, and Tyler followed closely, limbs heavy with uncertainty, yet buoyed by a shared purpose. Each gust of wind felt like a challenge, pushing back against their resolve. "Stay close," Elara shouted over the storm, her voice almost swallowed by the noise. Mark tightened his grip around Clara's hand, feeling her pulse race in sync with his own. The storm wasn't just outside, it resonated within them too, a reminder of the fears they needed to confront. It felt surreal, stepping into the heart of a tempest with nothing to hold on to but one another. As they moved, the world around them began to shift. The rain fell heavier, creating a swirling mist that swallowed their surroundings. Shapes appeared in the fog, figures gliding like shadows, flickering in and out of sight. "What's happening?" Jenna gasped, eyes wide with terror. Her breath came in short gasps as she stumbled slightly, the chaotic elements threatening to engulf them. "Fears manifest," Ilara explained, turning back to reassure them. "They're just illusions. We have to be brave. They can't hurt you unless you let them in." "Easier said than done," Tyler muttered, glancing nervously around. But Mark could see the fire in his eyes, a brave spirit battling against the shadows. With each step, memories flooded back, moments of loss, abandonment, and insecurity. Mark remembered his dad's disappointed gaze when he'd failed an important math test, the way Clara froze when her own father had left, and Jenna's struggle against unworthiness that stung even now. They reached a clearing, the storm pausing as if considering its next move. The air crackled with tension. Above them, clouds churned dark and heavy, banishing whatever sliver of light dared to peek through. "Ilara, what do we do?" Clara's voice trembled and Mark could see the fight slipping from her eyes. "You have to choose," Ilara said, looking each of them in the eyes. "Face your worst fear. Acknowledge it. Accept that it doesn't define you." Suddenly the clearing transformed. Wisps of fog coalesced into figures that bore their fears. A shadow of Mark's dad, looming large with disappointment. Clara's father appeared briefly before fading away, leaving only the echo of his dismissive laughter. The memory that had haunted Jenna for years danced around her, whispering her inadequacies and mocking her vulnerabilities. "No, you're not real," Mark shouted, forcing himself to confront the spectre before him. "Mark," the figure intoned, a painful mix of love and disappointment in his voice. "You've never been good enough." The words stung like icy daggers. But in that moment, Mark realized the truth. It wasn't his father's voice he was hearing. It was the echo of his own self-doubt. The realization forged a new strength inside him. "I am enough," he countered, every syllable stealing his resolve. Clara, emboldened by Mark's challenge, stepped forward, facing her father. "You don't own my heart anymore," she declared, cleaving through the shadows of her past. One by one, they began to confront their nightmares, tearing through the illusions like fragile paper. Tyler confronted a vision of a world without him, with whispers of abandonment scraping against his soul. Jenna challenged the notion that she could never be loved, breaking the chains of rejection that bound her. Each triumph lit the dark, illuminating their hearts with the burgeoning belief that they were so much stronger than their fears. But even as they started to reclaim their strength, a dark shape loomed in the distance, watching with a predatory gaze. A sinister figure wrapped in shadow, maybe the embodiment of their collective fears yet to be faced. "What do we do now?" Mark whispered, sensing an urgency growing. "Together," Ilara said, a fierce spark in her eyes. "Now we face what lies ahead, as one." But what could be lurking in the darkness? What would the culmination of their fears reveal? As they prepared for the next step, the weight of uncertainty bore down upon them. The time had come to confront the storm that awaited them, an unknown that was both terrifying and liberating. Together they took a deep breath, grounding themselves in their shared purpose. Mark led the way, ready to face whatever darkness awaited them. There was no turning back now. As they approached, the shadow shifted, coiling and unfurling like smoke, revealing flickering images, doubts, failures, and the pain of rejection that had once held them captive. The echo of laughter mingled with bitter memories, a chilling reminder of their deepest fears coming alive. "It's just an illusion," Ilara shouted, rallying their spirits. "Remember the strength you discovered. You can rewrite the story." With each step forward, Mark felt the surge of energy bind them together, a force penetrating through the depth of loneliness and isolation. Tyler stepped beside him, fists clenched with determination. No more running, Mark thought. He turned and faced the looming shadow, standing against the crushing weight of despair. "You don't control me," he shouted. "I've been afraid, but not anymore." The shadow momentarily flickered, recoiling as if struck. Clara joined in, her voice rising like a song. "I won't let my past define me. I choose to be brave." Together, with every courageous declaration, the pressure of fear began to lift. Jenna stepped forward, her confidence rallying. "We're far more powerful than the darkness. Together we rise above." The words rang out into the void, breaking the silence that had held them captive. Each burst of courage acted as a beacon, illuminating their path as the shadows stirred violently. "Facing our fears is how we heal," Mark said, his heart racing as he led the charge, the familiar bond of friendship weaving tightly around them. As if reacting to their determination, the shadow surged forward, its chaotic energy countered by their unity. "Now," Ilara commanded, her voice a harmonious mix of strength and softness. "You must hold on to that which binds you, love, hope, and friendship." In that moment, Mark realized that the storm's essence was woven into their interactions. What had seemed terrifying now felt familiar, like an old friend fading away under the light of acceptance. He looked at his friends. Each of them was holding an ember of hope, a flicker that would keep their spirits warm even against the cold. As they stood hand in hand, the shadow recoiled, shrieking against their brightness. "No, you cannot break my grip." "Yes, we can," Tyler shouted, pushing forward. "We're stronger together." Their collective voices rose, intertwining with courage and laughter, drowning the shadow in light. Mark felt each word resonate within him, removing the fog that had clouded his vision and seeping into the very heart of his fears. The darkness began to crack, splintering and shattering like fragile glass. With a brilliant flash, light exploded from their unified energy, enveloping the shadow in warmth. An ethereal glow filled the clearing, cascading over everything in a rush of hope and determination. The shadow evaporated into shimmering dust, leaving behind an echo of laughter, as if the storm itself was retreating in surrender. And then they felt it, a warmth rising from within. The storm outside softened, retreating to a gentle rain as the first rays of sunlight broke through the clouds. As the noise of the storm quieted, an overwhelming flood of peace washed over them. Ilara stood before them, her form glowing with gratitude. "You have faced your fears, and in doing so, you have freed me. Your courage has lit the way not just for yourselves, but for those lost in their own storms." Tears of joy welled in Mark's eyes as he looked at Clara, Jenna, and Tyler, each radiating transformation. They were champions in their own right, having braved the depths of their doubt. "We did it!" Clara exclaimed, her face a mixture of disbelief and glee. They were no longer afraid, no longer lost. Mark stretched his arms wide, embracing the sunlight filtering through the clouds. "We faced the storm together, and we emerged stronger." In that moment, Mark felt an unbreakable bond solidifying among them, a connection that would withstand any future storm. As they turned to leave the clearing, the skies brightened, the air new and fresh, filled with a sense of limitless possibility. Standing in solidarity hand in hand, they walked back toward the mansion, ready to share their story, the promise of hope echoing with every step. Because no matter what storms lay ahead, they knew they could face them. Together. Now it's time for you to take action. You need to subscribe now to not miss out on exclusive stories that inspire transformation. This is the moment to show your support by smashing that like button. It truly helps our community grow. Don't wait, not even one more second, to leave a comment sharing your feelings about this ending. And please, share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. True fans like you know the power of connection.